Bill Maher thinks WNBA rookie and #1 draft pick Caitlin Clark is being targeted by other players because she's not a lesbian and she's white.
I think it's natural for a megastar to come in and people say, I'm kind of tired of hearing about it.
It's everything. It's women are catty. The league is very lesbian, and she's not. And there's race. There's a lot of going on.
Caitlin Clark, the superstar, breaking records left, and right is packing her bags and heading to Europe. But before you jump to conclusions, let me stop you right there. This isn't your typical athlete on the rise story. No, this is about something much deeper. And once you hear what's really going on behind the scenes, you won't look at the WNBA the same way again. Here's the thing, Bill Maher just dropped a bombshell that's turning the sports world upside down, and it's got people asking all kinds of questions. He's not just talking about Clark's game on the court, he's exposing what's been happening off the court, and believe me, it's the kind of locker room drama that makes a reality TV show look tame. We're talking about tension, controversy, and more politics than you'd expect from a basketball league. Why is one of the league's top talents heading for the exit? Spoiler alert, it's not about money. The reason is way more complicated and yes, a little bizarre. But before we dive into the juicy details, do yourself a favor, like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you're ready for what's coming next. You won't want to miss out, because the truth behind Caitlin Clark's decision is about to shake up the WNBA like never before. This isn't just about basketball anymore, it's about survival in an environment that might be more about who you are than how you play. So sit tight, because what we're about to uncover will leave you speechless, and it could change the league forever. Trust me, you'll want to hear this. Bill Maher, known for his provocative takes and unfiltered opinions, recently sparked a major conversation in the sports world by revealing the real story behind Caitlin Clark's surprising decision to leave the WNBA and sign a contract with the European basketball team. While fans and analysts initially assumed that her departure might have been motivated by financial incentives or a better career opportunity abroad, Maher's revelations suggest something far deeper was at play. According to him, Clark's departure was driven by her inability to fit into the WNBA's cultural mold, and that cultural mismatch affected her on and off the court. The WNBA, where approximately 60% of players identify as lesbian and 85% are black, has cultivated a unique atmosphere that celebrates diversity and inclusivity. However, this culture, according to Maher, can also be exclusive in unexpected ways. Clark, who is white and straight, did not fit the demographic boxes that many in the league's community prioritize, and that fact reportedly played a significant role in how she was treated throughout her time in the WNBA. Her skills and accomplishments as a player were undeniable, but the league's broader focus seemed to overshadow that. Instead of being celebrated as a rising star, Clark found herself reduced to a mere commodity, a player whose primary role seemed to be generating revenue for the league. The WNBA, Maher argued, was more interested in using her as a marketing tool than in recognizing and nurturing her talents. The league has been criticized in recent years for focusing more on pushing social and political agendas rather than the actual sport, and Clark became a casualty of this approach. As a result, she opted to leave the WNBA and head to Europe, where she believes she will be valued for her skills and contributions on the court. For Clark, the decision was simple. She doesn't owe the WNBA anything after how she was treated. Maher's commentary wasn't a casual, off-the-cuff observation. He delved deep into the underlying issues grounding Clark's decision, emphasizing that her struggle within the WNBA wasn't just about basketball. Clark, by all accounts, was thriving on the court. She was one of the league's top players, breaking records and attracting a growing fan base. But off the court, she was battling something much larger, a league that didn't seem to want her. Clark's decision to pack her bags and move to Europe wasn't about a minor disagreement over contract terms or the lure of a lucrative new deal. It was about survival. Maher exposed the toxic environment within the WNBA, where both players and league officials appeared more focused on making Clark feel out of place than on celebrating her contributions. At the core of the issue, Maher suggested, was that Clark didn't fit into the WNBA's image of the ideal player. She didn't check the boxes the league seemed to prioritize: being white and straight. She was seen as an anomaly in a league that prides itself on promoting diversity in terms of race and sexual orientation. Maher pointed out the hypocrisy of a league that consistently preaches inclusivity, but in reality marginalized one of its best players because she didn't fit into their preferred narrative. Rather than highlighting her talent and success, the WNBA seemingly shunned her, diminishing her role and making her feel like an outsider from the very beginning of her career. In the WNBA, Clark faced an uphill battle: the league's cultural norms and its close-knit community of players didn't seem to have a place. For her fellow players, many of whom shared different backgrounds and lifestyles, treated her with an air of indifference, or worse, Clark encountered snide remarks and subtle slights from teammates and opponents alike. It was almost as if she had walked into a high school clique where acceptance was based not on her abilities, but on how well she fit in socially. Instead of being celebrated for her incredible contributions to the game, Clark was treated like an outsider who didn't belong. This dynamic was especially jarring given that she had been one of the most exciting players to watch in years. Her performances were drawing attention and driving up ticket sales, something the WNBA desperately needed. Yet instead of receiving praise and recognition for what she was bringing to the league, Clark was often pushed to the sidelines. It was as if the WNBA was almost embarrassed by her success, preferring to keep the spotlight on players who fit their desired image. The tension between Clark and her fellow WNBA players came to a head during the 2024 season, particularly in her interactions with Angel Reese, another prominent player in the league. One moment that became infamous occurred during a game when Reese made a provocative head slap gesture aimed directly at Clark. To many viewers, this was more than just typical trash talk between two competitors. There was a personal edge to Reese's actions, as if she were trying to send a message beyond the court. Some fans even speculated that Reese's actions were calculated, part of a broader effort to humiliate Clark publicly. Angel Reese has always been known for her fiery competitiveness, but her interactions with Clark seemed to go beyond standard rivalry. This wasn't just about two players trying to outdo each other on the court. There was an undercurrent of tension that left many wondering whether Reese's behavior was driven by something more. Reese's gesture made headlines and left a lasting impression, sparking conversations about whether the animosity between the two players was rooted in more than just basketball. As if the tension with Reese wasn't enough, Clark found herself in yet another controversial incident involving Joni Carrington, another player in the league. During the first game of the 2024 WNBA playoffs between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun, Carrington made a move that many fans and analysts viewed as deliberately aggressive. She poked Clark in the eye during the game, causing an injury that left Clark bruised and visibly shaken. Although Carrington claimed the eye poke was accidental, the timing of the incident right in the middle of a crucial playoff game led many to believe otherwise. Clark, who had already been struggling with her shooting performance that night, now had to deal with an additional physical setback. The eye poke raised questions not only about Carrington's intent, but also about the broader culture of hostility that seemed to surround Clark in the WNBA. Was this just an unfortunate accident, or was it part of a larger pattern of mistreatment? Fans and commentators alike were left to speculate, and the incident only added to the growing sense that Clark was being unfairly targeted both on and off the court. In addition to dealing with confrontations from fellow players, Clark also faced issues with officiating throughout the 2024 season. According to Mar, the referee seemed to have a bias against Clark, and fans were quick to notice the uneven treatment she received. Game after game, Clark found herself on the receiving end of questionable calls. Fouls that seemed to appear out of thin air were regularly called against her, leading to frustration not only for Clark, but for her supporters as well. Even commentators, who typically avoid wading into controversial territory, couldn't help but raise their eyebrows at some of the officiating decisions. Mar emphasized that this wasn't just a coincidence. The WNBA, he argued, was complicit in allowing biased officiating to undermine one of its best players. Clark's opponents often seemed to get away with much more leniency on the court, while she was constantly penalized for minor infractions. This pattern of officiating only added to the growing sense of unfairness that Clark had to contend with throughout the season. But the challenges Clark faced weren't limited to her interactions with players or referees. The racial dynamics at play within the league also became a major point of contention. Clark, a white player in a league where the majority of players are black, found herself at the center of a much larger cultural conversation. Players like Angel Reese and Alyssa Thomas, both of whom have had public tensions with Clark, added fuel to the fire by bringing up concerns about racism within the league. Reese, who has had a history of friction with Clark dating back to their college days, didn't hesitate to speak out. She took to social media in her podcast Unapologetically Angel to share her experiences with racism, specifically calling out members of Clark's fanbase. Reese claimed that she had received racist threats and comments, and she directly attributed much of this negative behavior to Clark's supporters. Her accusations only deepened the divide, sparking heated debates about the role of race in the WNBA and in women's sports more broadly. Alyssa Thomas, another prominent player, also entered the conversation after the 2024 playoff series between the Connecticut Sun and the Indiana Fever. Thomas publicly stated that she had experienced more racism during that season than at any other point in her career. Her comments added another layer of complexity to an already tense situation. Thomas described the playoff series as a racial battleground. Tensions ran high not just because of the competitive nature of the games, but because of the broader racial dynamics at play. The WNBA, feeling the pressure of these public accusations, released a statement condemning the racist behavior of certain fans. However, by the time the league responded, the damage had already been done. The public narrative had shifted, and Clark found herself in the middle of a firestorm. No matter what she said or did, she couldn't escape the controversy. Despite her best efforts to distance herself from the actions of a few misguided individuals, Clark and her fanbase were being painted with the same broad negative brush. Faced with this overwhelming level of scrutiny and division, Clark was forced to address the situation publicly. After her team's elimination from the playoffs, she held a press conference in which she attempted to clear the air.